So the courts ruled in favor of Jehovah's Witnesses in Norway, but the Bar Association, they're not letting this go that quickly. The bar, that's the legal people, that lawyers, it's built up of many lawyers, and it's built up of the whole legal system. Every country has a bar. You know, the lawyers are trained according to the bar. Now, I might not be talking through my, let me look that up a little bit here. Okay, here's the definition. The bar refers to the collective of all lawyers who are qualified to practice law in a specific court of jurisdiction. So now here's some of the real questions that these legal experts have. You know, what about the kids? You know, this disfellowshipping, this shunning. You know, what's this all about? And are we going to see this land in the Supreme Court? This whole Norway case. This is what's happening in the bar. We're going to look into it. It's because of the doubt the Supreme Court had. And we'll take a look at how Jehovah's Witnesses are gloating over this whole situation. So let's take a look at it. This is the Jehovah's Witness website, March 27th, 2025. They posted Court of Appeal unanimously overturns unconstitutional ruling in Norway. And what I thought was interesting, right out the gate, they're getting into the money. The appeal also awarded our brothers the money, the 800,000 US, in compensation for legal costs incurred during both trials. Now here's my question. If this does go to Supreme Court, and if the state wins in Supreme Court, does that mean that Jehovah's Witnesses have to pay all this money back? Or, like, is this not gloating? Is this not saying that you've won something before the battle's not over? We're only halfway there. You know, the race is not over here, Jehovah's Witnesses. You don't even know if there's an appeal. And here you're gloating, you guys have won. Let's look at the gloating here. They go on to say, after the Oslo District Court upheld the government's decision in Norway appeal, this latest decision overturns the lower court. It says the state may still appeal. During the appeal process, a panel of 3 judges examined our practice, our Bible-based teachings in direct contradiction to the state's claim. The Court of Appeal determined that limiting contact with an unrepentant wrongdoer who has been removed from the congregation is not a violation of his rights. And in situations where an unrepentant baptized minor is removed from the congregation, the court ruled that it does not constitute psychological violence. The court concluded that Jehovah's Witnesses have been fully vindicated in the decision to deny grants and registrations are invalid. So this is how they're talking. These are all the liars here in court. This is Kerr. He said, yeah, there's nothing, there's not a lot of questioning going on in these elders meetings. You know, he just got up in front of the court and lied. So we ran a lot of these videos. You guys are familiar with them if you've been following the channel. And so that's Jehovah's Witnesses. That's how they're pitching this. Now, if you really want to know a lot about the case, Miss Usato has done a terrific job on Avoid JW, The Price We Pay, Jehovah's Witnesses versus Norway, the trial. She laid the whole trial out, all the way from day 1 to day 10. And all the main players. This is Risdale. He's another guy, a worldly guy, and he just got up there and lied through his teeth. You get enough people doing that, it causes the court to say, well, we're not sure. That's what they're saying. They're not sure. The appeals court, you guys can read it. I'll pin this. But today, what I'm interested in talking to you guys about is this article from Larchwood. Now, Larchwood brought this up. Norway's Bar Association hopes the state will appeal the Jehovah's Witness ruling. Legal experts question the court's reasoning on disfellowshipping and children's rights. Will the case go to the Supreme Court? Good question. We're going to explore this. This is the notes from the Bar Association in Norway. Case in question. The Secretary General Merritt Smith of Norway, the Norwegian Bar Association, hopes that the state will appeal the mid-March ruling in which Jehovah's Witnesses won on all points. She believes there are uncertainties in the ruling that the Supreme Court should examine. Professor Heidi Stroman Lyle questions the court reasoning, particularly regarding the practice of disfellowshipping and negative social control. The Ministry of Children and Families plans to decide whether to appeal after Easter. So folks, Jehovah's Witnesses getting up in front of the world and saying, oh yeah, we got it, we got all their money back, and they were completely wrong in the original court. This is all straightened up now. We're the winners. Here it's saying that the Ministry of Families hasn't even decided until after Easter. So that might be a little presumptuous on Jehovah's Witnesses' part, running their article here. That it's just all done. That's my thoughts. Now, anyways, why are they in doubt? That's what the Supreme Court, or the appeals court said. We're in doubt. Well, that's not a unanimous win for Jehovah's Witnesses. So they've slanted their article. And if you've been following it, the appeals court said we're in doubt. We really don't know. It really opens it up to the Supreme Court is what this appeals court did, in my opinion. Now, another expert in Larchwood's in this article here from the bar, from the lawyers, it says another expert who has thoroughly examined the ruling is Professor of Law Heidi Stroman Lyle. And I'll just pause it for a bit. Yeah, another expert who has thoroughly examined this is this Professor of Law Heidi Stroman Lyle. And he says, I agree with the conclusions, but the reasoning behind some of them can be debated, he says. He says the ruling is solid, but there are aspects that don't quite add up. Why is the court uncertain? Lyle asks. Good question. That's what I was wondering. The key issues in the case was whether Jehovah's Witnesses' practice of disfellowshipping prevents members from freely leaving the organization. The Court of Appeal concludes that it does not. Now, the ruling states that Jehovah's Witness practice does not violate Norwegian law, but then it still goes on to discuss the issues in relation to the European Convention on Human Rights. Why did they do that if they have already concluded that it was not against the Norwegian law, he asks. Very good questions. And the doubt is what gets me. The doubt. So the next page goes on, misunderstanding. Lyle believes the court has misunderstood how international conventions functions, and the ECHR is in agreement between states if a majority of the member states define Jehovah's Witnesses' disfellowship practice. Just hold on. Okay, let's rework this a bit. I had to let the cat out. It goes on to say here, so the question is whether Norway could be one of the first countries to do so. Where they challenge this religion. I think it's a big thing, challenging these religions. These religions have a lot of power. They hire a lot of these apologists, Bitter Winter, all over the earth. And they start pummeling the country with all kinds of hate literature, basically, for making a good decision. And so the appeals court comes in and says, we're in doubt. We're not quite sure. So this opens it up, in my opinion, to a Supreme Court. Here's what this lawyer says. Lyle, he says, the basis for such a decision must be grounded on the Norwegian law. The discussions must be about whether Norwegian law complies with Article 9 of the European Union. But if it has already been determined that disfellowshipping does not violate Norwegian law, then there's no reason to discuss it afterward. And I don't think that's what it's about. Disfellowshipping did bother the family services. It bothered them how they're dealing with kids, dealing with them like adults. These kids should not be ordained ministers. A kid can't be an ordained minister. In fact, Jesus didn't take on his ministry until he was 30 years old. Making kids ordained ministers is really ass backwards. It's not in the Bible, folks. It's BS. And then to disfellowship that kid because he didn't live up to what Watchtower wants him to, that's another load of BS. And that has to be fixed. And if it's not going to get fixed in the Norwegian court, which I hope it is, it's going to have to be fixed in other courts. Now, another issue has been whether Jehovah's Witnesses practice can be considered psychological violence against children. The court said no, but with reservations. And they say under doubt that it's not psychological violence. So they really don't know what the hell they're talking about, the courts. They got confused with all the lying is what it is. Jehovah's Witnesses get up there and lie. And it really clouds the courtroom, really clouds the judges. These judges were never involved in JW stuff. This is new to them. So they try to make it look like it's just another religion, which it isn't. But what is this doubt based on? Lyle asks. Let's go to the next page. Unclear reasoning. He believes the ruling shifts into unclear reasoning. First, they examine the Convention on the Rights of the Child, then they suddenly jump into the Norwegian legal sources. But the Norwegian legal sources cannot be used to define concepts in the Convention on the Rights of a Child. That's simply a misinterpretation, he says. The court rejects that disfellowshipping constitutes negative social control, but simultaneously has no doubt that negative social control is a violation of children's rights. So Lyle is highly skeptical of this conclusion. He goes on to say the court points out that the negative social control has no legal basis in either the Norwegian or the international law, and it is not a legal term. And they also refer to the latest government report on the issue, and it lists it there, which concludes that there should not be a ban on it. But then the Court of Appeal states that there is still no doubt that lawmakers consider negative social control to be a violation of children's rights. They refer to certain assumptions in the preparatory work, but they have already dismissed those assumptions. One cannot seriously claim that the Parliament knowingly and deliberately established new rights for children through this preparatory work. And the Ministry of Children and Families is now considering whether to appeal the case to the Supreme Court and has announced that they will decide shortly after Easter. So I think Jehovah's Witnesses are acting presumptuously by getting this article out and saying, you know what, we're just it. We won. We beat those suckers. We're getting all our money back. That's basically what they're saying there. While the Ministry of Children, they're going to consider this. Lyle believes that the ruling raises several fundamental questions. The Court of Appeal has determined that the state had no grounds to intervene against Jehovah's Witnesses, but at the same time, they express doubt. Like, is that what you want to hear from your court? No, doubt. What does this doubt mean for future cases, he asks. So there's a lot of questions here, folks, that have to be unraveled. They will be unraveled, so we'll be following this court case after Easter to see what happens. And if you haven't subscribed, subscribe now, and we'll keep you up to date. Well, thanks again, folks, and keep living your life with love. And it just makes the whole day work smoothly. We're not involved in the brawl at the hall. Now, if you haven't seen my last video, the brawl at the hall over pedophilia, that's in Quebec, Canada. I got more information on that came in from the video. And that's where it happened, the brawl in the hall. These brothers all got into a fist fight. I'll pin it at the end of this video. You can watch it. Well, thanks a lot, folks, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye for now.